remember the protests that happened when Mike Brown was shot by that police officer. Mm-hmm. I remember like the raid gear the police were wearing. I remember the pepper spray that was sprayed. Tear gas that was thrown. And I do not recall seeing any of those protesters
having any weapons,
especially not automatic rifles. Mm-hmm. I've seen several videos of these protests where several different people were carrying automatic rifles, not just handguns, right. Automatic rifles. So if somebody were to come up them and wanted to start something, they were armed to the teeth. Okay, so now we're at the review. Our subject for the review this time is the good, the bad, and the ugly of the COVID-19 pandemic and quarantining. So this is going to get a little heavy. It also is going to get political. And there's no way to avoid it being political because a lot of what's happening has become political. So there's like no way to talk about it without talking about the political side of it. We've tried to avoid this, but I don't think we can avoid it any longer.
We're starting to think that we shouldn't. I mean, we're not politicians or conspiracy theorists, but this is a platform to voice what's right and what's wrong. Like I told you, we stand on exploiting injustice. So,
and if you disagree with us, you're more than welcome to express your opinions.
Definitely.
But just know we're going to come back at you with facts and figures.
For sure. So.
So we're going to start off with the protests and the rallies against the lockdown. Mm-hmm. Now, I did a little research. I kind of like fell into a black hole of research concerning these protests. So according to the Washington Post, the group that is encouraging the protests is called the Conventions of States Action. So this organization has financial support from a billionaire named Robert Mercer. It's gotten support from two members of the Trump administration, Ken Cuccinelli and Ben Carson. Eric O'Keefe, who works for the Koch family, also supports this, as well as the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. So why they have been created, and they've been around since I think 2015, was they want to take the Fifth Amendment, and if you don't know what the Fifth Amendment says, go do your own research and read the Fifth Amendment. They want to use that to amend some of the Constitution and limit the federal government's power and funds, in particular Congress. So we have that. I went to the website.
Wait, one more time. Say that one more time. They want to what? Limit the what?
Limit the power and the funding of Congress. So, again, go and do your own research. I did my research. Do your research, because I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just reading you what I found. So that in itself is interesting, I think, if you really, really want to think about it. I went to the website. I read through a lot of what they were doing and saying. They're pandering to people who are upset that they are out of work and they're having to file for unemployment, which a lot of us are doing. Yeah. This is not just happening to one particular set of people.
Millions of people.
Millions of people. And some of them are very upset about all of this. And some of us are like, we're upset. But we also understand that this pandemic is not, showing us any mercy as far as contracting it. especially in the African American community.
Right.
So as for me and mine, we're going to stay quarantined until, the CDC says we good to go.
Right. And just know, even while shooting this show, we've taken every and necessary precaution to make sure that everything is safe and that we're safe and that, we stay healthy. Because this is...
I even switched up my diet because I was like, I know people with pre-existing conditions are more susceptible to contracting the virus and dying from it.
Same here, drinking more water. I back working out. It's home workouts, but workout is better than nothing because, just a quick digression, but one of the things that, it's being told that, open your lungs, exercise your lungs. And it's funny because I see more people walking, more people running, more people cycling, things like that. So I guess some folks are actually listening to that. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, he's right. But I just think that if it's affecting us, Black people in particular the most, then we need to be the most careful about our health.
Absolutely.
Moving forward.
Right.
But to move on, these protests have been lauded as peaceful, but there have been many instances of protesters being armed with automatic rifles.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And many of the protesters were caught on camera not wearing any protective attire. And these are large groups of people, far more than 10 people. Some of them were wearing protective gear, ironically, because they're like, the coronavirus doesn't exist while wearing full. But anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked. So, but let's pull over right here for a second. I remember the protests that happened when Mike Brown was shot by that police officer. Mm-hmm. I remember like the raid gear the police were wearing. I remember the pepper spray that was sprayed. Tear gas that was thrown. And I do not recall seeing any of those protesters
having any weapons,
especially not automatic rifles. Mm-hmm. I've seen several videos of these protests where several different people were carrying automatic rifles, not just handguns, automatic rifles. So if somebody were to come up them and wanted to start something, they were armed to the teeth. Right.
They look like a daggone kill squad from the Purge.
I have literally watched the police just stand there and watch them yell and scream at the top of their lungs, waving their guns around. And so for me, it's kind of a picture of what America is and how America operates.
Right.
And you can agree with me or you can disagree with me. But I don't know how bringing an automatic rifle to a protest that you said is peaceful is actually peaceful. Somebody needs to explain that to me.
Honestly, when you are peacefully protesting, in my opinion, you have your right to you have a right to protest. If anything, the protection should be there for you. That
should be.
You know what I'm saying? And not even necessarily to like be bodyguards, but necessarily like be mediators, be like that line of defense in regards to keep things from getting out of hand. And I'm assuming that's why the police were there. But if things popped off, man, that would have been like the OK Corral all over again.
I remember the protests in Charlotte and what happened there.
Wow! Did somebody get hit by a car in Charlotte?
Mm-hmm. Now that man has been arrested and he's been put in jail. The man that was driving.
But the fact that it happened, though, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that did get rowdy. Now, if there were people that were out there protesting against those other people, which I think everybody who agrees with the quarantine is probably not going to be outside anyway, so they weren't going to get any pushback. from another side. And then not wearing protective attire is also dangerous because of the way this virus spreads.
Right.
And there were, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, people there who were immune compromised.
Right.
Not wearing protective gear. And I was like, well, I guess if you want to be subjected to this virus, that's your business, but it's not intelligent to do that.
A lot of things that they're doing is unintelligent right now. So the fact that they're out there with the fact that they're out there protesting a freaking pandemic in the middle of a pandemic about a virus that exists, and they're saying that that's what else? I mean, that's ignorance beyond ignorance. You know what I mean? Like I'm just taken aback by.
I mean, I understand being frustrated, but I don't see
right
how this
way.
is helping you.
It's not.
It's just not.
It's not. It's not. I have a theory that I'm going to mention, but it's going to be after Lala finish her points and whatnot. But yeah, go ahead.
There are so many things to be upset about and up in arms about. I feel like this is not one of those things. Mm-hmm. I think this is a time, if not to really reflect and see if this is the job that you had, was it providing for you enough? Right. And if it wasn't, what can you do to make your situation better?
Right.
I feel like that's the time for that reflection.
Right.
And also, it's disrespectful to the people that are essential workers that are having to work all these long hours and daily subject themselves to possibly being exposed to this virus.
Right.
All the people that y'all said were y'all treated like less than nothing, like the people that work in these big box stores, the people that work at these fast food restaurants. You've said that these people don't deserve more pay than what they're getting, and yet they are your main source of getting food, supplies, clothing, all of this other stuff. And I think it's selfish for you to be protesting at a time like this. It is. It's selfish. I mean, and I understand that, a lot of you haven't received your $1,200. A lot of you haven't been able to get your unemployment. And I understand that frustration, but some of the people that I've heard speak are not even talking about that part. They're talking about not being able to get haircuts. Right. And not their kids being in the house with them all the time. Right. And wanting to go play in the park when you could just play in your yard. Or, I mean, I understand some people don't have yards to play in, but, I mean, they allow you certain hours to play in the park, so it's not like you can't go to the park at all.
Right.
But anyway, one of the worst protests has happened in Michigan, where the governor there, Gretchen Whitmire, put in place very tight restrictions. As of yesterday being Friday, today is Saturday, yesterday was Friday, she has rolled back some of the restrictions due to the protests, and that came from CNN. But for perspective, the CDC states that Michigan is number 4 of the states that has the highest number of cases. They have 29,000 cases, 29,263 cases to be exact.
And they just insist on just protesting. But go ahead.
So she did a lot of restrictive things, but I think she was trying to prevent Michigan from becoming New York, because we all know what the situation in New York is.
They were knocking on, well, they're ways off, but still, to have 20,000 cases still, it's a bit
much. It's more than that. They're at 200,000 cases.
What?
200,000 plus cases in New York.
Oh, all right, I know in New York, that's what I'm saying.
But they're a long way off, and I think what
to have 20,000 is a lot, period.
That's a lot. Right. And I think the
Jeez.
restrictions she put in place prevented them from that number growing higher and higher.
Right.
So I think she was trying her best to preserve her state, and people just didn't understand,
right.
or they don't care. A lot of it is them not caring.
Yeah. And being selfish and being inconsiderate of.
And let's be real,
others.
They're acting like spoiled brats.
Of course.
Honestly, some of them. Again, I understand not being able to work.
Right.
I'm very blessed and fortunate that I can work from home with my job. But I also have a second job where I still have to go to every day. Mm-hmm. And they have taken all the precautions to make sure that we're not, we're staying safe. Right. But other people in my family are not working right now either. Mm-hmm. But that they're not out in the streets protesting because they know that there is a purpose in this quarantine. We're not just quarantining for fun.
Right.
This is not a fun time
right.
for anyone.
Right.
So you're not the only one suffering. And I think if other people are willing to suck it up and try to do what they can, then y'all should be able to too. Right. Honestly, it's just moving on. Healthcare workers in Colorado, and for perspective, there are 8,582 cases in Colorado. Stopped the protesters in the street there. So the Daily Mail reported that the healthcare workers clashed with protesters. And I've seen the picture and the graphic, and it's pretty cool because, of all of us, I think the healthcare workers are suffering the most because they're in those hospitals day in and day out. They see sick people coming in, so they see some of them recover. A lot of them die, and they've seen a lot of people die. Yeah. And working 12-hour plus shifts, day in and day out,
and seeing that chaos,
and seeing all that. Not only their physical health in danger, but their mental health is in danger. Right. And so for them, they were like, how dare you be out in the streets and protest, possibly contract the virus, and overload your healthcare workers even more when you can stay home and be safe.
I mean, it's gotten so bad. They're pulling healthcare workers from out of state to come to other states. They did that with New York recently. To get people to come and help with New York's situation. So.
Yeah, there have been two nurses that actually live in near me that went to New York to try to help them because they're just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because there's so many cases there. Another thing, there's a news organization called Now This. They used footage from a popular Instagram profile, and this is like a little comic relief. There's a profile called All Gas No Breaks. I follow them. I've followed them ever since they were originally French Quarter Confessions, and so that page got shut down because there was a lot of risque stuff going on there, but it was very funny, right. And it changed to All Gas No Breaks. And This one guy goes to different events and he just talks to the people and they freely talk to him.
Spill the beans.
And it's just so interesting. It's kind of like a social experiment almost. So kudos to that young man for doing what he's doing and kind of showing what America is. And he does it on all sides of the fence. Like anything you can do with it. Think of flat earthers, Burning Man people, at vegans and vegetarians, recreational drug users. He has everybody. He went to the NASCAR races. Like I said, he's been in the French Quarter and he's interviewed people there. Just the craziest stuff you will ever see. You won't even believe that you're looking at people in America when you're watching this stuff. But so he recently went to the protests in California, and which is where everything kind of started. Mm-hmm. For perspective, California has 26,182 COVID cases. It started there. It was very bad there. They did a very restrictive shutdown, and that slowed their numbers down. Mm-hmm. Just for perspective. Mm-hmm. These protests included an immunocompromised man coughing at the end of his little spiel.
I saw this video.
A man daring people to cough in his face, talking about he eats raw meat and raw eggs and it builds up his immune system, which is anecdotal evidence and not at all what research shows, but I digress. I just feel like, never mind, let me not say that. And then a woman comparing the lockdown to slavery.
Yeah.
Let's pull over right here for a second, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm hanging on by the seat of my teeth, man. I'm hanging on. I'm trying. Go ahead.
I don't understand how you could think that 200 years of your people being taken from their homeland, brought over on a ship, not on top of the ship, underneath the ship, chained together,
on top of each other,
packed in literally like sardines, brought to a new land,
bathing in their own feces.
Bathing in their own feces, in some cases committing suicide just so you won't have to become a slave. Your name has been changed. Your identity is taken away. You're no longer allowed to practice the religion you practice in your homeland. You are made to work from sunup to sundown with no breaks and barely even a water break.
You're beaten because they want to break you mentally and continue to control you.
And then if you don't do enough work, you're beaten for that. You try to run,
you're raped and sexually assaulted, whether you're a man or a woman.
You're raped, you're sexually assaulted. If you try to run away, you get limbs chopped off. If you fall in love and want to marry someone, you have to ask permission first, and then you could fall in love, and that person could be sold away to another farm if it suits that slave master's his needs,
or borrowed to satisfy his needs or her needs.
Your children are taken away. Nothing you own is yours. And after that 200 years is up and you finally have your freedom, some of us didn't even know that we were free till maybe 2 years after. Even after that, when Jim Crow was supposed to be the law, we were still beaten and dragged through the street, hung, mutilated.
Told to go home, can't be out past night and stuff like that.
Were not able to get any jobs. And if we did get jobs, they were basically sharecroppers and making pennies, less than pennies on the dollar.
Stealing property, stealing land, stealing businesses, stealing money. And then
weren't afforded the same opportunities, weren't allowed to vote until about 50 years ago. And if you did, by some miracle, happen to create some kind of wealth, you were tortured and possibly killed. If you tried to segregate, dogs were let loose on you. Hoses were let loose on you. So all of that, and I could go on and on and on and on. And all of that, you compare, how long have we been quarantined? For maybe over a month?
Mine's some change. And compare that to being not even really locked down.
Not even fully locked down.
Right. You still you can.
For a month. Not 200 years. A month. And you dare to open your mouth and make a sign and compare that to slavery? How dare you? How dare you? I want you, if I ever see that lady, and which I probably won't because she lives in California, I want her to explain to me, all these people that are doing these protests, I want y'all to explain to me how this compares to slavery, because I don't get it. Things that we are still seeing the effects of today. And you can argue with me if you want to, but all the evidence and all the facts are there.
You don't want to do that. Not with this topic. No, you don't.
but you're in slavery right now because you have to sit in your house because your kids can't play on a park.
I would say this, and I'm gonna give a minute to cool down, because here's the thing, man. Like, the people right now are really showing how ignorant they are. I'm not even. I mean, Lala said a mouthful in regards to the comparison of slavery to a lockdown, because that woman is apparently ignorant, and I'm just taken aback by how resistant people are and how willing they are to die, because that's what you're doing. You are willing to die for pride, for your inability to respect and understand that this thing will kill you. And you are selfish and incompetent and just insist on getting more people sick and allowing this thing to exist through your ignorance, because you don't want to stay behind at home and not spread it. I'm pretty sure there's some cases right now because of these protests. I'm pretty sure.
They're not going to talk about it because that hurts their agenda.
Exactly. And it's crazy. It's ridiculous. I'm going to say this and then we're going to move forward. They keep on the fears that the fears that we've had about having a martial law could come to pass. Because doing this stuff, rebelling and acting out the way these people are, is giving the government more than enough reasoning and rhyme and motivation to conduct and initiate martial law.
I mean, it could, but I think because due to the fact of the type of people that are protesting, it won't be martial law until different people protest, namely minorities. When they start protesting,
minorities is not going to protest, man.
No, because a lot of us know better.
We understand.
A lot of us do. Now, there are some of us that don't know better, because I know Georgia is starting to open up some things, the hair salons and the nail salons and some bowling alleys.
Yeah, and
some of us, too, are making
that.
poor decisions. I mean, my aunt yesterday was talking about how she saw a picture of a nail salon that opened, and the line was wrapped around the building.
Yeah, I mean,
so some of us aren't getting it either.
Right, and Georgia. I hope you know what you're doing. My sister's in Georgia, but I know her agenda. I know she's going to stay safe. Her husband, like I said, my brother-in-law, he's a flight attendant. He's at risk all the time because of doing his job being a flight attendant, because he's considered an essential worker. And, I mean, it's crazy, man. And I will say this about the martial law, and I'm going to say that. The only thing that would make that a potential possibility, besides it, the individuals, the type of individuals, is the fact that this government is crazy. This government doesn't care about the people, and it's already showed that if you're not giving PPE to medical professionals that need it to combat this, what it doesn't matter what type of people out there.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't at this particular point. I don't think it matters if you white, brown, orange, green, or red. This administration does not care about anybody.
And the sooner all of us realizes that, the better. Because time and time again, like you said, this administration has shown what they truly care about, and it's not people.
It's definitely green, and I'm not green. Are you green?
No, and we're also not an inanimate object, so you can
put two and two together.
Right. So on a lighter note, but not really lighter, because this is it's funny, but it's not, because the situation is very serious. President Trump suggested that to inject COVID-19 patients with disinfectants and treat them with UV light. So he looked over at his health advisor and said, I think, shouldn't there be a way that we can inject
inject disinfectant into the body,
or Lysol or Clorox?
Because it gets in the lungs
it gets in the lungs and it makes the lungs. It does a number on the lungs, and we have to really look at the lungs and we have to look at the body.
Then UV light inside the body.
Could you put the light inside the body? Maybe like a biopsy or some sort, and you just shine it right there. And it just
that's not exactly what he said, but it was to the effect. I mean, y'all have all seen it. Y'all saw it. It's been everywhere.
I'm trying to understand why he would do that on national television.
It's bad to the point where I think a few people have actually tried it, and Lysol had to come out and be like, "Hey."
No. Lysol, Clorox immediately put out warnings saying that, "Hey, don't. I can't.
Don't do that. Don't do that."
Yeah. Like medical professionals, Lysol, Clorox, and even other politicians are putting this out there. Joe Biden made fun of it, but he actually put warnings out there. I can't believe I have to say this, but don't drink bleach. So, yeah. Chris Cuomo, his wife is under fire because she put out that she put half a cup of bleach in her water to help to bathe with to help her deal with the COVID-19. And when she had,
I've heard of people doing that.
COVID-19,
and I actually know some people that have done that,
even without COVID.
Even without COVID, and I don't think that's smart. But
it doesn't matter to me either way. But it's just it's kind of weird that she put that out there like that.
I don't think she should have kept that to herself.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he went back and he said he was being sarcastic, but it didn't seem like that to me.
Nah, bro, you was being for real. Why? First off, that didn't help your case anyway when you said being sarcastic.
He was making a joke and seeing what the reporters would do with it. Now, obviously, like, his supporters are going to be like, yeah, see, he was taken out of context. I was like, no,
bro, why?
And he wasn't joking when he said it either. There was not a smirk, not a smile, nothing.
Like, he thought he said
nobody
something
in the room laughed. No one in the room thought he was joking.
Like, literally, I think reporters were caught off guard with his response. Like,
in fact, I think they just moved right on past it because they were like.
First off, shout outs to that cameraman that zoomed in on that doctor that he was talking to. Whoever you are, sir or ma'am, you are an awesome individual and you are the hero of this story because that zoom in was epic.
If y'all seen it, it's good.
The look, the Lala just had talking about the slavery was that lady because she was just, I just can't understand this fool. Why is he?
She's like,
She started breathing heavy. Started breathing heavy like she couldn't breathe, about to have a stroke or something.
Oh man, y'all go vote.
Vote for the right person. That's what you need to say. I'll just vote for the right daggone person.
I mean, if you're on one side or another, I mean, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for because that's not my job, but go vote. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, you have to because this situation here is, I mean, I'm tired, man. I'm tired and it's time. Like, I don't know what else you guys need.
And don't just vote for president. Vote at the local level. Yeah. I think we get so caught up in who's the leader of this country that we forget.
We still have leaders here.
That a lot of the decisions that get made for where you live are made by your local electorates.
Right.
So
do your research.
Locally.
Do your research.
Do your
See
research
if you stand by that policy and vote for them. Yeah.
Make sure you're voting for Congress people. Mm-hmm. Because in the end, the president can do this, that, and the other. And the most he could do is, like, if he doesn't like something or if he doesn't think something should get passed, he can veto it or he can sign an executive order. But Congress makes the laws. They make the laws that affect you directly.